our first reading and our gospel speak of the land of Zebulun and Naphtali. And these lands, as the gospels speak about, are situated in Galilee. And they're important because of their history and the location. So going back several hundred years, what had happened was that the people of Israel had been divided into two kingdoms. The northern kingdom of Israel, which 11 of the 12 tribes inhabited, and the southern kingdom of Judah, where the tribe of Judah inhabited it. And in the year 733, Assyria invaded the northern kingdoms. Now, the northern kingdom had already been, it was a mess. The people had a run of kings, about 5 kings in a very, very short period of time. Most of the kings changed hands through violence. Few had any legitimacy at all. The people had kind of lost any sense of law, order. There was turmoil in the kingdom, and really the kingdom was disintegrating. And into that disintegration stepped in Assyria. And Assyria, the first 2 tribes that were conquered were Zebulun and Naphtali, as they came in and basically decimated the people of Israel and carried them off into slavery. And Isaiah, whom we're hearing, was preaching around that time. And so when he's speaking, these are recent events. This has recently happened. And so he as the people are being carried off into slavery once again, the Lord is making this prophecy, this promise to them. Land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, way of the sea on the far side of the Jordan, Galilee of the nations, the people that lived in darkness, that's them, has seen a great light. On those who dwell in the land and shadow of death, a light has dawned. Where the disintegration and the destruction started, where the darkness began, so the light will enter in, and from that place, the light will spread throughout the world. And so God becomes man. Light comes into the world and shatters the power of darkness. Jesus enters into that land of Zebulun and Naphtali, that land of darkness and the shadow of death, bringing his light and his life. He starts his ministry at the same time as John the Baptist's finishes. He starts with the same words that John the Baptist uses. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is close at hand. And Jesus is the one who brings that kingdom into this world, this light. He brings it into the darkness, not only of the lives of the people there, but into our lives. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is close at hand. The words Jesus uses necessitates a response. Repent, change, turn around, live in a different way, start again. There's an image, maybe you've seen this picture. There's a famous painter called Holman Hunt, and he's painted a picture called Jesus, Light of the World, and it's actually situated in St. Paul's Cathedral, the Anglican Cathedral in London. And in this painting, there's Jesus in a very dark scene, and Jesus is carrying this light, and he's standing before a door, and he's at the point of knocking on the door. He's about to knock on the door, and the door is covered in plants, and it looks like it's never been used or rarely been used. And after he'd painted it, somebody had said, pointed out to him, said that he'd made a mistake. You've made a mistake, Holman, on this painting. And Holman was, really? What did I do? And he says, you've forgotten to add the doorknob. Your door doesn't have a doorknob. And Holman said, no, I've done that on purpose. Jesus cannot open the door. It has to be opened on the inside. He will not force his way in. The light of the world comes into our lives. And in a sense, there's a double action that may seem contradictory, but there's a double action. He's knocking on the door, desiring to enter in. And the word repent, change your mind, change your behavior, calls for a stepping away. So there's a stepping out, away from our works of darkness, the chaos that we cause in our lives and the other lives of others, away from our sin towards the light, Jesus Christ, a stepping out of darkness into light. And there's also that opening of the door, which only I can do, and inviting the light into the chaos and mess and sin of my life, and allowing him to transform it. And so his words, repent, that needs a response. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. God's reign. Change. Let God reign. Let him be king. Put him at the center of your life. No more shall another person or something be the most important thing in your or my life, but that everything that we are, have, and do would center on Jesus. Our relationships, my marriage, would spring out of my love for Jesus, who is at the heart of that marriage. My family would be influenced by Jesus, who is at the heart of my family. My work, my relationships, everything would come from Jesus, spring out of and be influenced by he who is my King, the most important person in my life. Repent. Abandon the other kings, the other gods, and put me at the center. Become my disciple. Follow me. In this gospel here, we have the disciples immediately leaving Jesus. Now, the reality is, in the other gospels, they get to know Jesus first. But Matthew isn't really interested in that. He wants to teach us about discipleship. When Jesus called Peter and Andrew, immediately they left everything. When he called James and John, they left their work. That was no longer the important thing in their life. They left their father. Their family was no longer the most important thing in their life. Immediately they left and followed Jesus. This is the call. As a disciple, Jesus is calling for a response. We should not listen to this word and not do something. He has come to be a light for the nations. And the nations isn't just the people of Israel. Galilee of the nations, it's called Galilee of the nations because the nations are all the foreigners that have come to live in that place. And he's bringing his light to the pagans, those who live in darkness, who do not know God. And he continues to do that. His kingdom continues to come through the church. That is, to the church, that is you. You. His kingdom will come and spread through you. And he still desires for that light, his lights, to come into the world. And so, like the disciples, like the apostles, you too, as church, are being sent. It began in Galilee, and it continues here in Aberdeen at St. Mary's Cathedral, where at the end of the Mass, you will be sent to bring his light to others, to invite them to enter into light, to make that invitation. It's their choice how they wish to respond, but you have a choice now. Repent. The kingdom of heaven is close at hand.